que salta del cómic.
He thought he was in control. How wrong he was.
Hey, what's up? It's Shane with Dynamis Media. I'm joined with Stefan.
Hello there.
And you're tuning into the Darkside Drive-In, which is our horror-themed podcast that we're going to kind of dive into some old classic horror. I don't know, are the 80s classic? Can you consider the 80s classic?
I feel like once you're a couple decades out, it's just classic at that point. But I would say maybe a cult classic would be a better way to put it. No one's going to be putting these in like the Library of Congress or anything.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. I could still run. There's still time, guys. So vote for me. And yeah. So let's do a little housekeeping. So we kind of introed the show. This is our new venture that we're kind of getting into. Both Stefan and myself have been friends for a very long time. Best man at my wedding. We lived together, and we were kind of just talking like, hey, we kind of want to do a podcast. I know you're doing some other stuff on the Dynamis Media channel. And we both used to love watching these movies. And we thought, how cool would it be just to kind of dip back into the what you lovingly coined the schlocky movie network of Tubi, which now I've obsessed with. I didn't even know that was a thing, so thank you.
Tubi is life, basically.
And for anyone that's like, hey, what is Dynamis Media? Like, what is this? We have a couple other shows. We do a gaming podcast called The Tilt that myself and another co-host, Nick, we kind of go through what's making us mad. It's more gaming focused, but sometimes we kind of venture off the beaten path. And then we have another show called Backlogged. And that show is hosted by Nick and Dylan. And that's kind of focused on like different topics. So it's more nerd centric. They do a lot of gaming content, but you get anything from like anime, board games, card games, you name it. And then if you even tweet at them, they'll do a show. If you request a topic, they'll do it. And then finally, we have a YouTube channel where we just do like 3 to 5 minute game reviews, something quick and fun. And honestly, the YouTube's kind of like a repository for all of our buffoonery. We're gonna put some other stuff on there eventually. We talked about doing like events with all of the group, so like every show or channel we're partnered with, maybe getting together and doing some kind of crazy stuff and stream it or record it and put it there. So I guess like Stefan, kind of put you on a spot here. Maybe give like a high level view, like your background into the whole cult horror classic film industry.
Oh, like why I'm interested in it?
Yeah.
Well, you see, something that kids nowadays won't understand is there was a time where there was something called a video store. You would go there to rent VHSs, and you would decide what VHS you wanted to rent based on the VHS's box. And basically, when I was a little kid, I would go to my local VHS like rental store, see these awesome movies that I wasn't old enough to rent. So like once I turned 17 and I was in high school and I still had a VCR, DVDs did exist, but still had a VCR. Put a footnote here, VCR being what plays VHS cassettes. And so I just went through and like all of these movies that I wanted to see based off of the VHS cover, just grab them all up. And as a result, got a lot of fondness for like these, to the general public, crappy maybe movies, maybe one note kind of performances or whatever. But I love them. I have a great deal of affection for them. So I'll probably fawn over pretty much any movie we talk about.
Yeah, and I think personally speaking, I had a very similar experience growing up with not a lot of money. We were a VHS household for a very long time, but my parents would take me to the video store. We had a local one. You could do 10 movies for 10 nights for $10. So basically $1 a movie for like 10 nights, which was like a steal, right?
Truly a golden age.
I know. And my mom was friends with the lady, so she would she liked horror movies. So she would always kind of I'd pick like, your your typical. I think I was like 5 or 6, so I probably shouldn't be watching some of these, but the Van Dams, the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallones, all the action movies, and then she would always like sneak in 1 or 2 horror movies, like, hey, check this out. And I have a great affinity for the sound of putting the cassette into the VCR. So anyone under the age of 20 that's already stopped listening, it's a very cool, like very cathartic sound of pushing the tape into the actual player. And then you had to rewind stuff, guys. So
also a good sound, but also a test to the patience too, because my God, it took so long.
Yeah.
But you don't want to not rewind. That'd be unkind.
Yeah, right. Speaking of movies, have you ever seen that Mos Def and Jack? Was it Jack Black?
Yeah. Where they
Rewind?
they have a video store and they recreate a bunch of movies.
So like vinyl's getting the comeback. Do you think like VHS is ever gonna make that leap?
Literally thinking that same thing. Like I would love to like have a VCR in my house and a bunch of VHSs and just like, oh, would you guys like to consume media in a hipstery way and have it be VHSs? That'd be perfect.
So like every time that I think of that, I think of the Book of Eli when he goes to the cannibal's house and they play Ring My Bell on that CD. And like you know what I mean, like the nostalgia, like it's like the 80-year-old lady and it's playing Ring My Bell, and it's like Dust, licks her fingers and dusts everything off and puts in a CD. Hey, I'm surprised that thing still played and didn't skip. So
you know what? Yeah, like they must have.
That's the real hero of that movie.
Taking really good care of that in that dusty world. Although, yeah, so I think about that. So like, imagine me in like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, living in some house. Probably shaken because all the people I have to eat because I had to turn to cannibals.
Yeah, you got some femurs in the freezer.
Yeah, and then like if someone shows up at my house, it's like, allow me to put in The Lost World Jurassic Park on VHS. Watch this raptor attack scene; it's gonna be great.
Well, one movie you could play is the movie we're about to talk about. So why don't you intro the movie?
Good transition. You're so good at this.
Thanks. Yeah, I try.
So this is The Stuff, a 1985 film that was directed by Larry Cohen. Larry Cohen being kind of a renowned director in the exploitation kind of schlocky horror world. Kind of just to go into his credits a little bit, he had directed some blaxploitation films earlier, Black Caesar, and then its sequel, Hell Up in Harlem. A bunch of horror movies, the It's Alive series, if you're familiar with that. It's Alive, It Lives Again, and then It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. All classics in their own right. One of his movies actually that I really like unabashedly love, and I would love it if we could do it on this podcast at some point. It's a lot to try to promise that one episode in. But it's called Q the Winged Serpent. Let me tell you, it features a winged serpent. So titles
like Q, like QU, like Q is in like, hey, Q in the
like the letter Q,
okay.
and then colon the winged serpent. In some circles, they just refer to it as Q, but I prefer to call it Q the Winged Serpent, so that like it's no doubt what Q I'm talking about. Like I'm not talking about Star Trek, not talking about QAnon. I'm talking about the winged serpent that lives in the Chrysler building.
Not John Q.
Not John Q, no. Although, good movie.
So he seems like a pretty busy guy, like, and I can't believe he had all that time to write all those songs too. Like Hallelujah.
Wait, that's not the same guy.
No,
that's Leonard Cohen.
Yeah, it's Leonard Cohen.
That's a different Cohen.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
You really threw me off there. I was like, that didn't come up during my research in anticipation of this episode. Like, that's a huge oversight, Wikipedia. And he also wrote a lot of his movies. So like he wrote Q, he wrote this. He also wrote all 3 of the Maniac Cop movies. If you're familiar with Maniac Cop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He wrote Uncle Sam, another one of those video store classics. It's like one of those like holiday themed slasher movies where like the subject of the holiday is evil and tries to kill you. A more recent credit, one that might make more sense to like listeners, would probably be Phone Booth. the Colin Farrell
Oh,
movie.
that was
where
good.
he's in a phone booth.
Yeah, that was really
Aptly named, some might say. But yeah, he wrote that one. That was one of his latter credits. I think his last credit was an episode of Masters of Horror, which was a series that they ran on what was it? It was one of the premium channels. But he actually wrote and directed a segment on that, and I think that was his last work before his unfortunate passing in 2019.
Yeah, and I really love his titles, and like, and if you watch, so like you can kind of understand him when you watch these movies because he's very some, I don't want to say literal, but like the titles like kind of say like he's very on the nose, right? It like phone booth, like, well, guess what? Guess what that's about?
Yeah.
Which is cool
Maniac
though because
Cop.
you kind of right, you kind of set expectations for yourself based off of the words that are being used, and then he kind of subverts that a little bit sometimes with what's actually happening in the movie. It's really cool.
Yeah, a lot of his work have a kind of like a social satire bent to them too. You'll notice that a lot, including in this one. But yeah, it's really interesting the his body of work, considering that, kind of showing my hand on the Wikipedia research I did prior to this. But he was, as like a young man, he was obsessed with noir. And I wouldn't say, like, there are noir elements to some of his work, but I wouldn't say that you could categorize anything that he did as noir. So it's interesting that was like a foundational influence for him, but it wasn't really something that he carried into his genre work.
So specifically getting into the movie, the stuff, man, there are some huge actors in this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Like I was shocked, like, and because I had never seen this before. I had seen it on shelves and I had seen clips from it, but I've never actually sat down and watched this. I was shocked by how many like famous, I mean, I consider them famous people that are in this movie. It was pretty interesting.
A lot of recognizable faces, for sure.
Yes. So who's your favorite character? Because I have one.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd probably have to go with Michael Moriarty's character, Mo Rutherford, or I guess his name's David Rutherford.
Yeah, David. Mo money.
Yeah. Whenever they give me money, I always want Mo. That is a story he tells multiple times in that movie.
So like I don't know a lot about Michael Moriarty. Like I know who he is, but I'm not like I don't like follow him like so like could you what else has he kind of like been part of?
He actually has worked with he's worked with Larry Cohen a number of times. They did let me see. I think that he was in It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive, so draw that down. He also was in a Return to Salem's Lot, which is something else that Larry Cohen had directed. I didn't mention it when I was running through it. He was in
That's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, get back there, vampires. He was in Q the Winged Serpent, which I don't know if I mentioned it. Q the Winged Serpent is about Q and a winged serpent in New York. Yeah, so Michael Moriarty's in that. He works, I think that he actually also worked with Larry Cohen on that episode of Masters of Horror, that final episode that was the last work that Larry Cohen did. So they actually have worked together quite a bit. I'd say that probably the work that Michael Moriarty is most famous for is his stint on Law and Order as ADA Ben Stone. He did that for a number of seasons.
So I know him from Courage Under Fire, the Denzel Washington movie, and Pale Rider, the Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
So he was in both of those, which is crazy. You know, especially in the 80s, a lot of these actors were really dipping into different genres, different roles. Like now I feel like a lot of people get typecasted. Now that definitely did happen back then, but I think it's interesting when you see some of these people get kind of cast into different genres, because especially horror and like this type of horror, it usually specifically has like a certain type of people that are cast, right? So I think it was really interesting to see some of like Paul Sorvino, right? Holy crap! Like, I didn't know he was even in the movie until obviously we'll get into it, but you know I was shocked. Garrett Morris, obviously.
Yeah, talk about a prolific actor, Garrett Morris.
Yeah, who was my favorite character, Chocolate Charlie.
Yeah,
like
Chocolate Chip Charlie. Yeah,
my man, that was Chocolate Chip Charlie.
Yeah, he was amazing in this movie. That was incredible. Like I'd only known him from like a handful of because he's basically in like every show is like a bit role in one episode or another.
Yeah,
and I was like, Oh, this is the guy from that one episode of Psych where he played like a butler, and they were doing like a riff on like an Agatha Christie thing.
Yeah, when we were younger, like we didn't have like the internet. Well, I mean, maybe we did, but not till we were a little older. But like, this was like our stuff, like watching these movies, and even playing like old video games and stuff. So I feel like now with how IMDb kind of exists, and there's so many different people and like extras, maybe we won't know this stuff for another 10 or 20 years, like who's going to be in everything, and we'll recognize them, because I'm starting to see people now in shows that I recognize from like the 2000s. But I think it's, people from like the late 80s to early 90s, it's like ingrained in my brain. I see them on the show and I'm like, oh my God. And then I go down the rabbit hole, like what's the 6 degrees of separation or whatever. And that's like one of my favorite things, is that when you see someone like that, like, and you have a cool reference, like the Psych thing, that's so cool.
Yeah, well, it's the kind of the thing too with a lot of these TV shows that were like long running, like Law and Order. Like, pick an actor; they've probably been in an episode of Law and Order, at some point. I feel like the equivalent to that now will be something like the Marvel Universe. Like, everyone's going to be somebody in the Marvel Universe. I'm still waiting for my call.
So why don't we get into the plot a little bit? Could you run us through like what this movie's actually about? I mean, so like I guess we have to figure out, like, do we want to spoilers? I mean, this has been out for a long time, so like I feel like you should probably.
I feel like if you haven't watched the stuff yet, like, sorry, we're gonna spoil it for you.
Yeah.
Go catch it on Tubi. It's there. I think it might also be on Amazon Prime, because I feel like the last time I watched it before this, like in anticipation of this recording, I think that the last time I watched it was on Amazon Prime.
And they get the rights to some crazy like movies and shows that, like, so that's a good thing. Like, if you're looking for an old movie that you're like have like a fever dream, like, oh, I want to watch this again, check Tubi, but also check Amazon Prime, because it's crazy what they have like in their category that's free if you have a Prime account.
I feel like, yeah, some of these like channels must like double dip, or like distributors are just like, hey, you want the rights to like run this, and they just like shop it around. Because there was a time, actually, I think the first time that I watched the stuff, which I didn't mention earlier, the first time I watched the stuff was when I was in grad school in like 2012, and I watched it on Netflix. So can you imagine that? Netflix actually had good stuff at one point.
Yeah, remember when Netflix would mail you media?
Oh, that's a hot thing. Are they just stopping that now? That's like big news.
Well, the CEO of Netflix sent that tweet out, kind of bashing Blockbuster like 2 weeks ago, about how like it's like how much they're worth now, and they were trying to sell to Blockbuster, and they got laughed out of the conference room. And then Netflix had all those issues. I don't know if you're up on what happened with Netflix, but so they were they have that new show Love Is Blind that everyone's obsessed with. It's like the trashier version of The Bachelor. And they did a live event, and they spent all this money on advertising, and it was supposed to be like this huge thing. Well, I don't know if like when everyone logged in, it crashed their servers, but they weren't able to get anything up and running for like an hour and a half. So obviously Hulu took a crack at them, but Blockbuster fired back like hard. It's like, you know what doesn't crash on your server? It's like hard media or something like that. So Blockbuster like definitely throwing the screws in, which is crazy because there's only like 2 stores left. But I like the fire back from Blockbuster. It's pretty cool.
I was like, who's running like Blockbuster's social media? Like, talk about an easy job.
I feel like it's more of an ironic thing now, right? That like Blockbuster, I think there's one in Iowa, and I think there's one other one. So like almost like if you own a Blockbuster now, it's a tourist attraction at that point. It's not really like a movie store.
Yeah, it's like, hey, come see this this artifact of a bygone era.
And then I always wondered like if people not returning movies and not paying their late fees caused them to go out of business. I don't know. I always think about that.
I mean, towards the end there, though, like when VHSs first came out, they were like expensive. It was like hundreds of dollars for like one VHS tape. But by the end there, you could just go to, I don't know, Suncoast Video and buy one for like $10. So I can't imagine that they'd go out of business just losing a tape here or there.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they'd start calling their people like, please give us our tape back.
We just need this tape.
We need this tape.
And plus, by the end of their life, weren't they mostly probably renting DVDs?
Hey, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know much about Blockbuster's business model. What am I, some kind of Blockbuster employee?
I don't know, maybe you are. But all right, so let's talk about the plot here. So I'll take a stab at it. Like, so you help me out. Help me fill in the gaps here. So the movie kind of starts off where they're in what seems to be like some mountain town outside of Georgia, right? With what seems to be snow, which is pretty crazy. I don't think it snows in Georgia, but hey, um, or it was just like limestone. I couldn't really figure out what was going on
It
there,
looked like
but
snow. I really do feel like it was snow. That was
I do too. And they were like, because the guy was cold, right? That was like the whole thing, and it was like warm, and you could see it. That was like the whole shtick, right?
yeah, just chalk it up to one of those like continuity problems, like in that one episode of The Last of Us when it was like just outside of whatever city and it was the Pacific
Oh yeah,
Northwest.
yeah,
Like,
right,
look, we don't understand what biomes are like. Just let us have our shot.
yeah, right. So leave Brittany alone. Anyway, so they find this goo on the ground, right, which is the stuff, and then
The titular stuff.
like, you know what I thought was really cool about this is like you could have done like this whole thing where they do this like it's in a lab and it gets out and attacks people, but I love that they took the like hyper capitalism message and like ran with it. They're like, ah, fuck it, we don't know what's in it, you can eat it, tastes good, and it gets like like produced and sent to the masses, right? I loved it because it went from like two hicks find this shit in the ground, and then the next scene it's like there's like these multi-millionaires on a yacht trying to do corporate espionage, which was entering our boy Mo, Mr. Moriarty.
Yeah, although not to back up already when we're only like moments into
Yeah.
the movie, but like look, if I find a white goo leaking out of the ground at some quarry outside of a small town in Georgia, I'm not eating it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not just gonna put that in my mouth and be like, what is this? That man just like ate it
I
immediately.
thought about that a lot, and I'm like, okay, like, and like this, like Cohen's like very specific on stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like he doesn't, I don't, he's not a guy that like screws stuff up, right? I, I,
No, yeah, he knows
I
what he's doing.
think, in my mind, the way I rationalized this was that stuff compels you to eat it once you touch it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
That's like that's kind of how I rationalized it because I thought about the same thing. I'm like, why in the fuck would that guy eat that, right? I mean, I guess they were trying to make him like, I'm a redneck, but like legitimately, like he picks it up within seconds, it's in his mouth. He's like, this is pretty good. And, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and honestly, that's almost exactly word for word what I think he says. It's like,
Yeah, right.
hey, it's sweet.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I agree with you because there are times like where it seems like the stuff is compelling people to do certain things
Yeah,
even before they've eaten it. Because obviously, after they've eaten it, the stuff's, it's got it now. But yeah, once it like, there's times like that where he seems like he's compelled to eat it. So yeah, you have a point. But I still feel like, man, like, what's my like, I don't know, fortitude save on that I can't
yeah,
resist the like psychic powers of this goo that I'm gonna just like try to consume it. Like, man, I hope I have a stronger like mental constitution than that.
yeah. That bro rolled a 4, so
Yeah, he didn't pass the DC.
yeah. And then he lived a pretty baller life for what it seems to be, what, like a month, until we all, well, we'll get into what happens to you once
Yeah.
you eat the stuff. But yeah, so flash forward to the boat. Probably my favorite scene of the movie. Maybe there's a couple other ones that I love, but the sweaty palm gag. I
Oops,
I don't
sweaty
know
palm.
why
That's a sweaty palm. Another
I
sweaty
thought it
palm.
was so funny, and I don't know why I thought it was funny. He just like comes in guns blazing, and the guy's like, I heard you got kicked out of the FBI, and he's like, hey, fuck you,
Yeah,
sweaty palm, sweaty palm,
yeah.
sweaty
Mo
palm.
Rutherford just marching in there like
Yeah,
on like I don't know what, like a kind of a southern accent ish. Like, he's just strutting in there. It's like, man, Michael Moriarty is just eating this roll up. He's just coming in hot with all these like what ice cream CEOs on their like doing their little ice cream cabal to find out what this stuff is.
yeah. It's like, oh, Haagen-Dazs, sweaty palms, sweaty palms. It's like every person. So another thing too that I just thought about is like him coming in like that, like to this whole situation. Like I think they were trying to like portray him as like a no nonsense, like he just like doesn't need them, they need him kind of attitude. And I guess that's like a salesman tactic, right? So I think it's like really true to the character of who that guy was. Like I think he actually probably would have done that and then fucking decks that guy when he leaves.
Yeah,
Like,
straight up got his cashier's
yeah,
check. He's gonna turn around and clock this dude in the face.
yeah, totally sets the tempo, right? I love it.
Yeah, it shows us that Mo is a man of action and great confidence, which
I
he's
love
gonna
it.
need if he's gonna take on this stuff.
Yeah, so then after the boat scene, then it goes to the family, right? That's like the jump cut.
Yeah, we had a scene before that was just the kid getting up for a midnight snack.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Oh,
and
oh my God,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
dude, I I don't know what father, like, comes in like coming hot like that. Like the kid's getting a snack out of the refrigerator. He's like you could scare me. And then like I actually wrote down like literally I was like thinking like if we're ever gonna do a riff tracks, this is gonna be my joke. It's like I was drinking until 9:30 to come home to have you walking around and waking me up. Like that's how I felt like the dad was. You know what I mean? Like you know what I'm talking about?
That's before he's even like
Like
got
I
the
spent all
stuff
week to
really,
get
and I'm
mad to
like,
hit your mom.
yeah, he's just so mean to his kid. Like, how dare you get peckish in the middle of the night, you bastard! Like, just yelling at him.
Well, I keep skipping stuff, so why don't you take over some plot points here? We don't have to go scene by scene, but I'll why don't you take the reins?
Yeah, I mean, like now that we've introduced Mo, we get a couple scenes of Mo showing off like how much of a network he has. Like, he has a scientist working on trying to figure out what the stuff is. So he's got resources that we, didn't know when he first strutted up onto that yacht, shaking hands with sweaty palm guys. And he immediately is able to get into the presence of the PR woman who had marketed this stuff. And this is like one of our early glimpses of like the Stuff theme song,
Yes.
like this marketing campaign that aggressively marketed the stuff and is implied to be the reason that it's like a nationwide phenomenon at this point.
Oh, by the way, she falls in love with him instantly.
Dude, like she's like ready to go to his hotel by the end of the conversation.
Yeah, instantly.
Like, I mean, granted, he did hit her with that Mo
Petroleum
joke
money.
again. Oh yeah, or that, yeah. Like, he did say he was the owner of a petroleum company and he was going to buy up her like PR
Marketing firm, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
marketing firm. But yeah, like she just instantly is like, he's like, I could take you out to lunch. She's like, how about does your hotel have room service? Like, man, this dude's riz is off the charts. Yeah, so but then he doesn't go. Like, I don't know. They just cuts to like him going on, or it cuts to Jason then going to a grocery store and going like absolutely ape shit on every like display of the stuff in like the supermarket. Jason being the kid.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to say that the kid's name is Jason.
Hey, how obsessed were they with his eyes,
dude?
When filming, it was a little weird. It was a little cringe.
Yeah, like that kid had like the biggest eyes.
Green, and, like super green.
Yeah, and he was like frequently looking at things. Granted, he is reacting to like some pretty crazy situations. So I guess like you would have like a wide-eyed look when you're doing that. But like I absolutely loved the scene of him going crazy in the supermarket.
Yeah.
Because how many goddamn displays of the stuff do you have? Like, my dude, you still have eggs, don't you? Like, literally, it's like everything in the store has been replaced by this stuff. Like, they have like pyramids on like the end caps. They have a bunch of them in the coolers. It's not clear if the stuff needs to be kept cool or not. It doesn't matter. It's everywhere. And this kid's just like throwing the stuff on the ground, like smashing the like jars of the stuff, just going crazy.
See, I love. So when I first saw that scene, I'm like, okay, that's kind of silly, right? But after seeing the whole movie and thinking back on it, I thought that was probably one of the smartest things they've done with the stuff in like being shown, because like the commercials were really cool, and I really liked how they they showed like how they branded. They didn't even know what they were gonna call it. Like they go through that stuff. But after watching the whole movie and like thinking back to how all these people react to that, like the stuff, right? I think it's interesting that like it shows like how it's slowly taking over people, because like they don't even know how to put it. Like, do we put it in the freezer? Do we just stack it out here? Some people like it cold, some people like it warm. And then like you learn like through this that it starts replacing food. Like people just start getting rid of their food and putting the stuff in place of that. So that comment you made about the eggs is like so on point, because I feel like that is such great foreshadowing in the writing of this, because he's like saying like, hey, look, like, because it's jarring to look into a supermarket and there's the stuff everywhere, right? It's kind of weird. Like, it's like, oh, well, how would that replace milk? It's like, and then you learn that it just you learn what it does, and we'll get there. But like, I just thought that was just brilliant how they did that scene. I love it. I don't know if you caught that or thought about it that way, but I absolutely, I actually went back and watched the first like 15 to 20 minutes after I finished the movie, because I'm like, there was some stuff I think that they did
stuff.
And there were a couple references that happened later in the show or in the movie, which was
Yeah,
I
what's the
love
thing is
that
like
stuff.
Larry Cohen did like clearly he did his work like foreshadowing certain things and like keeping some like plot points alive like throughout. Like he builds it up pretty well, which is why it's like so easy to kind of like do a plot synopsis of this because you're going from one event to another. Like one thing leads to another really well.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It's not like the old some of those old '80s and even '70s. I'd say more '70s where it's just weird jump cuts and they like kind of like assume you're just gonna get there in your head to where you need to be. I think he did a good job at kind of like setting up everything without spoon feeding it to you, right?
Spoon feeding it to me
So
like a big
like the
spoonful
stuff.
of the stuff. All right, yeah, but yeah, after the kids' incident at a supermarket, we get back to our man Mo, who got in touch with like the only person left from the FDA panel that actually did the research, like did the approval for this. Like in one of the most sus moves everywhere, all the rest of them like retired immediately after approval of the stuff. So this one dude is there, and I gotta tell you, I thought that the dude was like the stuffed, or some the stuff was doing something to him because of how his dog was being like really suspicious.
Hmm.
But like after Mo gets the information from this FDA guy to like figure out where they tested and all that stuff, the dude, like that scene where the dog is like attacking the dude while he tries to make a phone call. And it
Yeah.
turns out that, and then the dog, we have like a very brief scene of the dog's like jaw unhinging and like the stuff coming out of him. It's like, oh man, the dog was stuffed this whole time.
So like I don't think that guy was eating the stuff.
So it's just like the dog was eating all the stuff and it was like in charge.
Yeah, but like the coolest part of that scene is when he's like trying to make the phone call and the dog goes over and rips the jack out of the wall.
Yeah, rips the phone jack out of the wall. Like this dog knows what phones are and he's not gonna allow you to call for help. But like, wouldn't it be faster just to maul the dude to death? Because it was a pretty vicious dog, right? It was like a big Rottweiler or something.
So like I thought too, like watching this, like this was very topical because like you brought up The Last of Us earlier, but like to me, like because again I'm trying to rationalize this stuff the whole time. I'm like, I think the stuff wants to spread, and that's how it's making more stuff. Like it's like it can replicate in people or something, because it's replicating. It's from the earth, right? So I guess we should talk about it. So like we can get to the plot, but yeah, presumably it's from Earth, right? So it's not
because
like
it came up from the quarry, and later on,
Right.
like, we don't have to like. It's not like it's a spoiler. Yeah, like later on
Yeah.
we'll see that like there's like a huge like quarry, and then there's like a giant pool of just the stuff everywhere. So yeah, it's implied that it's like if it's not of Earth, it's from the Earth now. Like it's in the Earth now. So yeah, it's not like it's like explicitly alien in any way.
Yeah, and so like I think I definitely think about these things too much. So I'm thinking like, okay, it's in the earth. What would be its main food source? Would be carbon, right? Because that's like the most abundant material in the earth, right? Well, we're also carbon based. So I was wondering like, could it get inside the people and then multiply and replicate by eating it from the inside, and then it creates more stuff? So that's kind of how I thought about it, because I'm like, okay, like why, other than just like, because it doesn't have any like ulterior motive. It's not like trying to land a ship to harvest humanity or anything. It's not an alien. It's like, to me it was like kind of like The Last of Us, just a fungus, and it's just trying to replicate. That's its biology. That's what it wants to do. So that's kind of how I thought about it. Again, I think too much about these things, but
Well, I think that the movie kind of begs the question.
If you can't tell, I really like this movie. Just letting you know.
No, because like, well, it's like that the dog, the stuffed dog, pulling the phone out of the wall. Presumably, this dude is about to reveal some secret or something, probably to Mo, and the dog like put a stop to it. So like the stuff has like it knows what it's doing. It's like
It's sentient,
not mindless. Right? Yeah, like it has an agenda, and that kind of plays out more later. Like it definitely is like alive. And I don't know how much of a stuff is a stuff. Like, is it all one hive mind? Is it making more stuffs? It's like
I thought about that too.
Yeah, it almost doesn't really matter. Like it behaves like it's like a colony of some kind, so that's fine. If it's like what Grave Mind from Halo, it's like all of them are connected or something.
Yeah, it could be like your favorite movie, World War Z.
Why would you do that on our first episode? Even?
Whatever. Shots fired.
Yeah, okay. Man. Not even letting me rest.
All right, episode over.
That's it. I'm done.
That was it. That was the run. I quit. Yeah. So, all right. So I keep derailing us, but
yeah, well, I mean it's fine. But yeah, Mo then like moves on to the initial town where the FDA tested this stuff. The stuff. Sorry, not this stuff. The stuff. We got to be really precise about this. Almost no one lives in the town anymore. Almost all the residents had moved to Midland, Georgia, which is mentioned many times. So it's here that he meets our next awesome character, your favorite, Chocolate Chip Charlie, who is he's like a famous Amos like stand-in or something. Like he was like once the owner of like a cookie company, and then he got pushed out by his board, and then they sold to the stuff.
His family,
his own family sold him out, and sold to the stuff. So he lost his company to the stuff. So he's got a axe to grind right alongside our man Mo. And then that's when stuff really gets wild, because now they like go in to like talk to like the owner of a general store, and the man runs away from them and then falls down or lays down, and the stuff emerges from his mouth and goes out the window. And it's like the first touch of like the effects of what happens when the stuff leaves you, and your mouth is like agape too wide, and the stuff just like oozes out like a white goo, and then the stuff just books it out the window, like just squirms away. And then that's when the remaining town members, presumably that stuff went to warn the other stuff and the other people, and then the rest of the townspeople like chase after Mo and Charlie while they try to escape town. And it's our first glimpse of what happens like after the stuff is like fully gotten into you or whatever, because like Mo punches a dude in the face and the entire thing like collapses.
Yeah, his jaw like rips open. Like,
like his whole head is just punched off, like his face like shatters, like it's crazy. So presumably then the stuff like hollows you out like a husk and then just controls you from there. But also like can leave and then go do other stuff and then can come back. Because then it comes back to that dude and just gets back into him and gets him back going. So pretty gross. So
like another cool scene there. So they have to get on that boat to get away.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get the boat pushed off. So the one of the actors chasing them like pushed them out to water. I loved it. I'm like, yes.
This is a waste not scene. Everyone's involved.
Yeah. So the stuntman like pretends to like fall onto the boat and he pushes them out into the water so they can get away. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, they were really struggling to get that boat going, and I guess they didn't have enough time for a second take.
Yeah.
They probably wasted all their hollow heads in that first take. They couldn't be doing another one.
They blew their whole budget on the jaw ripping scene.
I gotta tell you, some of those effects, like practical effects, like I don't mind that. Like, yeah, I don't believe it's a person's face, but it looks good when they punch like someone's jaw in half and stuff.
Yeah. And it's not like it's campy, but it's like campy enough, right? It's not like overly weird, because like some of these movies get a little too gory, and I think it's just for shock factor, because that is the genre, right? For some of these,
yeah. Sure.
But this one, for what it, not no pun intended, tastefully did a lot of this stuff. But I loved the special effects. I actually wanted to bring that up, like. I don't know what the stuff is, but they did a hell of a good job with it. I don't think it was CGI. Like I think they had something. Whether it was like a dude in a green sheet running around, and then I don't know what they did, but it was awesome.
It was actually a viscous like material that they created. And I was actually reading some of like the how like on Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, on IMDb they have trivia.
Yeah.
One of the things talked about how like they used like a bunch of different materials, and to give it the color and consistency they needed, they actually used like mashed up, mealed up fish bone.
Nice.
And apparently anyone in the cast who had to interact with this stuff like on a practical level would basically run to get a shower immediately afterwards because it smelled like terrible. It doesn't smell good like the movie implies that this stuff smells in real life. So that's how you know everyone's a really good actor, because they're acting like they like it.
That is gross.
Yep.
I'm not going to sleep well. Okay. All right. So we hooked up with Chocolate Chip.
Yep. So yeah, Charlie and Mo decide to make a game plan. So Charlie is going to go to the FBI. The agent that Mo references is named Frank Herbert. Maybe you've heard of him. He wrote Dune. But it's just a reference to Dune. It's not like the FBI agent actually wrote Dune.
No, it actually was Frank Herbert.
Oh, wait. I didn't have that in my notes.
No, it wasn't, but that'd be cool. Be cooler if it was.
And then that's when like Mo's like, okay, well my next thing is I'm gonna go, investigate the distributor of the stuff. And this is kind of a cool scene because they're like making their game plan kind of in the open in a diner. And if you remember, the waitress, like they asked if they serve the stuff, and she's like, no, we don't have it. It's on back order or whatever. And then cut to her going to the back of the restaurant, opening the freezer, nothing but the stuff. So it's like the stuff like knows like that they have enemies out there and like knows to lie about whether it exists or not.
So I've got a moment I want to talk about, but I'm gonna save it till we get later on. But
Get closer to it.
yes.
All right. Yeah. So there's then Mo goes to talk to the distributor, and this was the part that kind of confused me. So the distributor definitely bribed Mo, and Mo,
Hey, he took his money.
yeah, Mo like literally said like I'm probably not gonna stop, but I'll take your money, and the guy just let him have it. It was like thousands of dollars. It's like, was that what happened? Like, did I miss something? Because I've seen this movie multiple times, and I've been like this is the first time I'm noticing he just like straight up takes this dude's money and basically says, yeah, I'm still gonna double cross you though.
Yeah, flat out tells him like the whole time, and then he does the Mo joke again.
I mean, yeah, you can't get enough of that Mo joke.
Yeah,
because he does want Mo.
I feel like I can't remember when he gets back together with the marketing lady.
Next scene.
Okay.
Yeah, literally like
because I have questions.
Smash cut to him talking to her and her already being on board with his anti the stuff mission. Like I feel like something must have transpired to like, because she's like now on board, like I help market this, like I bear responsibility for this, I'm going to help you put a stop to this. And at no point are we told like why.
Okay,
she's
good. That's what I want to make sure.
No, she's just on board. Like I mean, maybe like they in between like the scenes, like we have the whole like relationship of theirs progressing, and then once he like showed her the information, she's just like I'm on board. So, but yeah, she wastes zero time getting on board this. I think what's her name is Nicole, played by Andrea Marcovici. She's an actress and singer, but not in a lot of things that I'm aware of. She's been in like a lot of TV shows like Taxi, Incredible Hulk, Hill Street Blues, but like this is the only thing I really know her from. And really it's all you need at the end of the day.
Yeah, I just was a little confused. I'm like, okay. So like they added the marketing lady in, obviously love interest, and then like nothing for like what 30 minutes, and then she's like, let's take down the stuff. I'm like,
yeah, not only is she back, but she is on board with the anti-stuff crusade here. So yeah, like that was amazing. Like almost smash cut from Mo taking this dude's bribe, telling him he's not gonna do what he wants, and then just cut to the marketing lady now, like, which is kind of a cool idea though. They like, because like I think that in the modern world, like there's a lot to do with like marketing and advertisements and like directing like advertisements, like especially now in the era of the internet, like how you have no privacy and like how important marketing is. And it's kind of cool that even then like this movie's acknowledging like how important it was for the stuff to be marketed well. Like it's basically, she truly was a part of its rise to prominence, like why it's now in like every diner, every supermarket and everything like that.
Yeah, and I think like too, like with market, like you bring up the marketing stuff, and I think that in these like so like you talk about like the bearing like the weight of this, and that was like a huge theme for her character, right? To like almost to like a fault, right?
Yeah.
Like towards the end, it was like, it was kind of weird. It was weird. She's like, I'm gonna die on this sword. It's like, all right, lady, you weren't that hick that was eating the shit out of the ground. Like, calm down. Like, you know what I mean? You made a couple commercials and a logo.
She really, well, hey man, though that jingle is a banger.
That jingle,
though.
It is a banger.
Yeah, like that song kills it, man. So like, yeah, she, it's cool that she's taking responsibility. But you're right, she's like a little dramatic about it. It's like, look, lady, there's a lot of other stuff going on here.
Yeah, right.
But at some point, like I kind of get a little bit confused by some of the scenes here. But I think that after this, he takes her to his like science team that's like doing the stuff research, and this is when they discover that like the newspaper story about Jason like going on his rampage in the supermarket, and Mo just decides like, I'm gonna get this kid and save him because obviously like this kid's the only one that knows what the stuff's up to and he might be in danger. And it's such a funny thing because like, why would you, like one kid goes crazy in a supermarket in one town somewhere, and you're like, I gotta save this kid. But in typical Mo fashion, he's absolutely right, because Jason, now at home, his parents and his brother have basically gone full the stuff. Like, they're throwing away all the other food, like literally in a garbage bag full of everything else in their fridge. Their fridge is stocked to the brim with only the stuff, and they're just eating it nonstop. They like say, I think his dad says something like, eat the stuff and you can become part of the family again. Like, the stuff is selling itself hard to this kid. And I just thought that scene was really cool because, like, this kid's, like, about to be assimilated into the stuff. And he, like, takes a jar upstairs, fills it with, shaving cream?
Yeah, shaving cream.
And then, like, pretends to eat it. And by the way, that scene where he's, like, trying to flush the stuff down the toilet and it's trying to emerge. It's like, oh, man. Like, what's going to happen to the stuff now? You got flushed down the toilet.
So you bring up the brother, like, he's probably one of the most famous people, like, in the movie.
Oh,
Brian Bloom.
Certainly. Yeah. And he's actually so Jason, played by Scott Bloom, his real life brother, which is cool. Why they look so alike, and I never knew that until this watch through, that they were related.
It was, and like, because at first I thought, I'm like, man, the casting director deserves a medal for this. But then you look it up, you're like, okay, I get it. But yeah, Brian Bloom, like, man, I mean, we don't have, we could. He's got a lot, so
I mean,
check
you can
him
name
out.
his credits all day. I think that like recent video game roles probably would be good standouts, like BJ Blazkowicz in the new Wolfenstein series, Captain America in like all the new Marvel games, like since like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite through like Midnight Suns, Varric in Dragon Age, like the man
was in Like a Dragon. He's Joe. Like, I mean,
the English dub, he's all over the place. I didn't even know it. Like, I've like played these games. I had no idea that was him until like I looked at it. So probably shows that I should pay a little more attention to the voice actors in my video games and not be so disrespectful to their hard work. But
how dare you?
It was so cool to see.
Anyways, back to the shaving cream.
Oh yeah, so he tried to escape and his brother caught him. He goes in, takes the stuff, does the toilet thing, shaving cream, goes down and like eats the shaving cream in front of his family, like, oh, I like the stuff now or whatever, and gets like his family's happy, and then he like is gonna go make his like escape again, and he makes the rookie move of sitting down the tub of the stuff next to his stuffed dad, who instantly tries it and realizes that it's shaving cream. So his family chases him outside, only to have Mo pull up and just pick him up. Like, and he just gets in the car without question because like his family's trying to, either murder him or make him eat a living white goo. So either way, not great. But I just thought it was funny that Mo literally rolls up at the right moment, as is his way. He's the suavest dude. He's obviously going to show up to rescue this kid at the exact right moment, and they just drive off. When the kid throws up in his backseat.
He was probably there for like, He was probably there for like a day. It's like waiting.
He just waited until he saw the kid running and he pulled up. Like, get in, kid. But that was actually kind of a funny scene when the kid's like, I threw up in your back seat. And he's like, I know.
Yeah.
So no shit, kid. He knows you're in an enclosed space and you threw up in the back seat. He knows.
But that's such a kid thing, though. Like, I think they did a good job at writing that character. Well, until the end. But anyways, yeah. All right. So they pick up Jason, and they're heading back to kind of get the game plan together, right? Oh no, we know.
This is where they go into the airstrip. They're flying to Midland. Yeah. Yep. So they're flying to Midland, Georgia, where I guess Mo is going to pose as Nicole's secretary. Which, by the way, so he's not to make. I know we've been doing a lot of tangents, and that's just going to happen. But why on earth does every time Mo go to a place, he uses the same name? Like, my man, like. I don't know, like, even basic rules of being discreet would say, like, at least come up with a different name every time. He always uses the same name and makes the same joke. Like, people are going to figure it out.
Yeah, he's like, these people probably aren't going to make it, so I'm going to...
He just got such a high charisma that he just, like, can roll like a 2 and still get, like, past anyone's
like
DC.
Stat check.
Yeah, he was
got a plus 18.
He put all of his stats into charisma, this man. So they fly on the plane to Midland. When Mo and Nicole go to the factory, they leave Jason behind in the plane,
with a stranger.
It's a pilot. You know, if you can't
So
trust
the kid
pilot.
they just kidnapped, basically,
Well, here's the thing. It's not their
or
kid.
saved.
Like,
right?
what?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like
It's
leave
like
him with this guy. It's fine.
yeah, yeah. He'll probably be okay.
Yeah. So they just leave the kid sleeping in the plane. Go
His parents
do
are
their
dead.
business. Well, I mean, good is dead essentially. Yeah, like they're stuffed up. They're full stuffed. Yeah, but yeah. So like they go to the factory, but then the stuff like assassinates the pilot and is coming for the kid.
I love that scene with the dude out the window. Like,
Yeah. So yeah, the pilot's dead. Stuff's coming for the kid. He runs into the woods, and in an act of happenstance that can only happen in the movies, he stumbles into the quarry where the stuff is. And you know, this kid's like stealth is incredible because he's just like walking through the quarry. There's people above him on catwalks. There's people around him everywhere, and no one notices this kid. But then he rolls like the worst possible roll on like a, you know, I don't know, some kind of check to conceal himself, and goes into one of the trucks that's about to be filled with the stuff. So
like when I was watching that, I'm like, okay, why would you do that? And I think within a minute he was just like, why did I do this? Like, yeah, there we go. All right, cool.
It's like, okay, cool. I'm glad we're on the same page, Jason. Like, you should not have crawled into the tanker of this truck.
Yeah.
Like, terrible place to hide. Trying to think, like, then, you know, they do like one of the best ad breaks at this point. So like after their little tour of the factory or whatever, and they get like the public facing tour of the factory, they don't actually see the quarry from where they are. Like I'm talking about Mo and Nicole.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they go back to the hotel room, and this is one of my favorite of the ads for the stuff, because this is like where's the stuff, like the where's the beef lady.
Yeah,
it was I like looked it up afterwards. It's like, is that the actual where's the beef lady? And it was.
No way.
Yeah,
I didn't even I thought they just found someone and were like, oh, they did a great job. But
no, it was like, yeah, Clara Peller, like
stuff?
the literal like where's the beef lady. They had her do the where's the stuff bit. Like, classic.
So
way to
good.
go. And then her dinner companion is of course Abe Vigoda. Can't get enough Abe Vigoda. Put him everywhere. Well, I mean, not now, he's dead, but so please let him rest. But before that, yeah, put him in everything. So yeah, that was like one of my favorite commercials, was that like the where's the beef one with the stuff.
That whole scene though in the hotel room was pretty wild.
Yeah, when what was it, the stuff like emerges from the pillow to murder them. Like, probably the only instance where I didn't really like the effects, because like when it clings to people's faces, it tends to look a little fake. But then it like follows up with, so they catch the stuff on fire to get it to release the face, and then I guess there was another hitman just in case the stuff failed at its mission. There was like a hitman standing by. He runs in to like finish the job and accidentally triggers the bigger stuff trap, because apparently the entire mattress was the stuff. And then the stuff just flies out of there like a tidal wave of the stuff just throws this dude up against the wall. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was like, and then he dies, obviously. He got eaten by the stuff. So they steal his truck because they forgot their keys in the hotel room. There's no way they're going back in there because the stuff's in there.
So like the horrible thing that I'm thinking about right now that I can't get out of my head is you brought up the fact that this was made of fish parts. And they literally threw it on that guy's face.
Yep.
And that other actor. So I'm just like, in the horror that they must have been going through to like deal with that. Like, it actually turned my stomach a little bit thinking about it. Like,
yeah, and that effect, like of the, like how it like shoots him into, like, it shoots him up into the corner of the wall.
Yeah.
They did that by having a building or like a set that they could turn. So what it did was it was able to turn, and then he was on, like, to him he was sitting on the corner, but it was like shooting the stuff down on him. So they're basically just dumping it on him. It's basically what happened. Just dumping the white goo that smells like fish bone, like ground up fish bones, on him.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, that man earned his paycheck that day.
We're getting to the crazy where this movie starts getting like it took a really weird turn for me. And I was like, out of nowhere, they go to that Georgia base.
Oh no, yeah, because they go back to this is where they accidentally stumble onto Jason in the tanker, and so they drive the truck to the quarry because Mo's gonna steal one of the tankers. He's gonna steal like a tank load of the stuff. Somehow has an outfit that matches the outfits of the other people in the quarry. The man was prepared, and with the confidence that you can only get by having a name Mo, he just wanders down there, hears the kid in the tanker, which they had started to fill it up with stuff. So he hears the kid and steals that truck and just drives it out of there after setting off 2 bombs. To
hit all that C4
it was like I never knew this man had bombs on him until that moment. He just he has an outfit that matches them, a couple of bombs to collapse the quarry onto itself so they don't chase him, and then he's just on the run in this tanker truck, runs over some of the stuff people, and they just explode with white goo. Some sick effects on that, especially the one that was waiting in the truck for Nicole to come back.
Oh yeah.
He jumps out, and then she luckily with the timing that only Michael Moriarty has, he rolls up in the truck, picks her up, and runs the guy over. So good timing all around.
I guess they did say he was in the FBI and made a big deal about that, so maybe that's how he has all that munitions training. I know we're past that, but just trying to.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about how that was part of his conflict with that dude early on, was that other dude was also former FBI, but apparently Mo had left the FBI in disgrace for some reason, so
that they never get into, which is cool.
Yeah, literally it's just he left in disgrace, don't worry about anything else. And then now, yes, other than a small incident where a cop pulls him over and they trick him into eating the stuff by pretending to eat the stuff that's leaking out of the back of the truck, because that's one of the fatal flaws of the stuff's plan, is when they take over people to work for them, those people really like the stuff and can be easily tricked into eating it. So he goes down to eat the stuff, and then Mo hits him in the back of the head and knocks him out, and then they drive away. And that's when they get to a castle in a field.
So how did you feel about this part of the movie? Because I feel I get it, but it got really weird to me quickly. I was like, oh, okay. And this was probably the only message that they were trying to say that I felt was okay, this is a little too on the nose for me. Not saying that whatever, I get the message, but the overtly racist ex-general or whatever guy, or ex-colonel, that's a womanizer. I was just okay, they hit a lot of boxes with this one guy.
Yeah, he was really on the nose. He was a caricature that kind of, you get it. Think about the militia type guy, and you get it, former military militia type guy he also has
I own 3 radios.
He's also been disgraced in some fashion.
Well, by Mo.
Oh yeah, that was what it was, right? Mo
yep.
Mo had, while working for the FBI, had disgraced him, ruined his reputation, and for some reason though, that is enough for him to decide to hear Mo out.
Because he hates commies.
Yeah, at which point Mo's you were worried about them fluoridating the water. Let me tell you, they're going to sell us the stuff that's going to take us over. And like a lot of people, Paul Sorvino's character, Spears, on board immediately. Full weight of his military force, his paramilitary force, are now ready to invade the factory with Mo. Guns a-blazing. They're ready. So, like I said, every single attempt that Mo makes to convince anyone of something, he must succeed. Nat 20 that shit, because he's going to convince. I have a theory
on this, but we'll get into it later.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they although I super love, just to talk a little bit about Paul Sorvino's performance as this guy. It's a caricature in some ways. He's got those militia guy stuff going on, but Paul Sorvino says he's having a great time playing this role. When he's hitting on Nicole, and then Mo's hey, I think you're trying to move in on my lady, and then Paul Sorvino's you'll probably be a casualty.
Yeah, right. It was it was perfect. He did a great job. I just thought it was just weird. It was out of nowhere, but I loved it. It is. I loved his performance.
Yeah, I think that just the satirical and tongue-in-cheek nature of this is, we're not supposed to consider that character to be a good guy. But
right.
When you're moving in the world that Mo moves in, you got to take the help from who you can get it from. And in this case, these crazy militia guys are ready to believe that this stuff exists. The only difference is this conspiracy theory is real.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, that was crazy whenever they attack the factory super weird scene where like all of the factory workers like go to one place and just like the stuff just leaves them. So they're all just like empty
Yeah,
shells on the
that was
ground.
that was pretty wild.
Yeah, the stuff just abandoned them and just like retreated as like one mass. That was crazy. And that was one of the things I didn't get into, like when they're showing the quarry and stuff like that. They had all that like propaganda over the radio, like it was
Hmm.
going like pro the stuff propaganda. And it was like really weird because it was like bordering on like a cult. So it's like maybe the stuff isn't fully in control of people, so it needs like that little extra bit to keep people like going while it assimilates them.
So that's part of my theory.
That
But
makes sense because of because of that propaganda, and then because of this instance where like these are like true believers working the like quarry, and they just all go lay down and just the stuff leaves them, and now they're just empty husks.
I mean, do you want to get into my theory or do you want to finish the movie? I mean, we're close. We're almost there.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you if you want to talk about it real quick.
So, okay. So here's my thought on this, right? So for how widespread that stuff is and everyone's having like eats it, for us to assume that these characters just haven't eaten the stuff is crazy, right? So like and even the movie like hints at that it's like everyone has either tried it or had it, right? So I think at some level the stuff infects everybody that eats it, and I think eventually it either can't take control or it does or whatever. But so I was thinking about this, like the whole, and I don't want to spoil the ending or anything or any of this stuff. So like you know that the stuff has a natural fear of like not existing, right? Which is pretty natural. Most creatures when faced with death will run,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
The
sense
fight
of
or flight.
self-preservation there. Yeah.
Yep. So what I thought was interesting is all these people that eat the stuff and turn into like zombies. So like why isn't everyone like that? Because like it's all over the grocery stores, it's all over everywhere. And they're not joining this weird cult kind of thing. And they're not like some of them are and some of them aren't acting weird. And I think from the plot standpoint, it seemed to me like it amplified, like if you were kind of like a sheep kind of person and you're just kind of going through the motions, it affected you the most. And then for people like Mo, it really brought out his inner like bravado. Like it to me, like I felt like it just takes your personality, amplifies it. Like the dog, right? So dogs are aggressive and can be aggressive. I'm not saying all dogs are aggressive, but I felt like the stuff grabbed that and amplified it. The guy in the FDA, he was really into like trying to do the right thing for people by like showing like that they're testing these drugs and all these food and stuff. And I think that's why he gave the stuff to Mo, because he felt like compelled to do that because that's his inner nature. But I think Mo was infected the entire time and was just like eradicating like pretty much everything. Like people found out and he heard that they found out. So like the stuff sent him to infiltrate that ice cream thing, not the other way around.
Oh, that's
Because at
interesting.
the end, he wipes out. We're spoiling the end here, but he wipes out both the distributor of the stuff and the ice cream guy that was kind of the head of like the resistance, right? And
Yeah,
so he
except that
bring
those two guys were. We can get into that, but
yeah,
I
all
don't.
right. That's my theory, is that all these people are infected by this stuff. It's like to which degree, and like is anyone actually doing their own will? I don't know. It was kind of weird. So
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how. Like, I definitely do buy some of that because like people are all like eating this, but like not everyone's gorging on it. But I think there is a point where the human like self-preservation is overridden by the stuff, like where they become just
correct.
fully inhabited.
Yep.
But yeah, like obviously small amounts. They even later on, like when they talk about how to rebrand it or whatever, they talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can fly through the ending here because we're almost to the end.
Was
They
one very important thing though.
which part
Chocolate
is?
chip Charlie.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. Like okay, so they fly to whatever city that Paul Sorvino's character owns radio stations at, uh, and they go there, and this is actually a super funny scene because like all of his military people just get out of the plane, and like there's like a fleet of cabs waiting for them. And the one
Yeah.
cab driver is like, "What is this, World War III?" And then Paul Sorvino's like, "I'll have no more of your liberal remarks."
Yeah.
like, like, okay, man. But then when they get there, he like gets his entire military force there. It's like, all right, everyone pay your drivers 10% tip, cash receipt. It's like such a weird thing to like organize a military force. It's like, now make sure you tip your cab drivers, guys. So yeah, they go into the they go into the radio station. Nicole's getting the press release ready. Then, you know, Chocolate Chip Charlie arrives, you know, saying that he had done what Mo had asked him. And then we get to see like this was a very uncomfortable scene where Spears gets real racist. It's like all this other like stuff was kind of silly. Like this was uncool. Like how he treated Chocolate Chip Charlie. It's like, come on, man. He's part of this. But not a lot of time to dwell on that because like instantly Charlie finds a way to like try to corner Nicole, and it turns out he's been infected with the stuff. He makes sorry, go ahead.
No. So Mo killed him. Like Mo left him in that diner. Like he knew what he was doing, right? He like purposely was like, I'm getting away from this guy.
Well, he was sending him to do something different though. He was sending him to the FBI because he knew the FBI wouldn't listen to him because he was a disgraced FBI agent, but they would listen to Charlie because he was up until then a respected junk food CEO.
Yeah, I don't think he made it out of that diner. So
well, I don't think so either, based on that lady like going to the thing of the stuff, or he ate some food at that diner and he thought it was regular food and it was actually laced with the stuff or something.
Right.
But in any case, Charlie like says like some remark to her about like how it feels when the stuff crawls out of you, and she's like, "How would you know?" It's like, "Here's how I know." Then his like mouth unhinges and the stuff's like flying out of him. At which point Mo has to go like full hero mode by what they take a couple of like split a couple of electrical wires. Paul Sorvino in a alley-oop hands them to Mo, who just like jumps in and electrocutes the stuff until it catches on fire. It's like it doesn't matter if the science bears out on that. He just did it. Like, don't worry about it. And
and it was like crazy how fast that was like available for them.
Yes, yeah, like literally just like, oh, thank God we have these two wires that, you know, don't have any safety like precautions. They're just going to continue to pass current, so you can like stuff it into the stuff and then catch it on fire and save your love interest and the little boy. Because Jason had wandered into there for some reason. He just like wanted to talk to them, I guess. But yeah, then that's when they make the broadcast. People turn on the stuff, start blowing up the stuff stores, blow up the factory, all of the places, like burn it in the streets, like it's like a revolution of some kind.
Stuff illusion.
But then that's the scene where we get to the scene that you were talking about, where Mo like goes back to that distributor from before, who is now in cahoots with one of the ice cream moguls from the yacht, and the two of them are gonna like create a new rebranded version of the stuff called the Taste, which is what, like 10% the stuff, which they think will not be enough that, you know, that people will be addicted to it, but not enough that they'll be like taken over by the stuff. And that's actually, see, I think we had different opinions on this scene, because I actually thought this scene was super cool. Because then, like,
cool.
The kid rolls in with the stuff and is like, you know, and you guys are gonna eat this, and like no, we're not gonna eat the stuff. And then Mo takes out a gun. It's like, you're gonna eat the stuff, or you're going to, you know. And then like, why would you do this in front of the boy? And he's like, the boy's family was killed by the stuff because of you. The boy wants this more than I do. Like, he's like, the kid's just like the coldest of all now. He's like ready to kill these guys for like taking away his family. And then like they hear the police coming, and then they're like, time to go. Like vigilantes. I just like the idea of like Mo and Jason just going from like tracking down all of the people who made the stuff happen and just forcing them to eat it before the cops get them.
Yeah, and the veracity at which they were eating this stuff was kind of like interesting, because like they never ate it because they knew what it was. Or well, they didn't know what it was, but they knew like what effect it had. So
how they went. Well, that was like a kind of a cool little point too, because they started like reluctantly doing it because, you know, Mo had a gun on them, but then by the end they were like digging into it, which is like, you know, that's what the stuff does, I guess. But it is just funny that like even these guys, knowing what it is, still couldn't resist the stuff, because enough is never enough, you know. And speaking of enough is never enough, then we get the last scene, which is, you know, some people like shady looking, you know, 80s versions of shady looking characters roll up in a van, pull a box out, and then it's full of the stuff, and they're like selling it on the black market, like drugs. Yeah. Like, it's like selling it like drugs on the streets. And that is how it ends. Other than one, I don't know if you caught the one post-credit scene that there was. It was just another little commercial. It was just enough is never enough. And then that was it. I was like, why was that there? Like, we've already been hammered like with this lesson, unless the implication is it's not over. The stuff
I
is
think that's
happening.
what it. So like I'm surprised they didn't make a second one of these. But I thought that's what that was gonna be, like foreboding, like or not foreboding, but like foreshadowing, like, oh, there's a second one coming. But yeah, I think everyone's infected by this stuff that eats it, and it's to like varying degrees. And I think, like, I don't know if people are like immune to it or something, but it was just interesting how for you as an audience to think that not like everyone hasn't eaten this, like it's like the craze, right? So think about like a fad that comes out, like a new food or candy, like everyone tries it. And that's why I thought this was such an interesting movie, is because it really hits home with like food that just comes out and you just try it because other people were trying it. And it's kind of weird to think about. Like, it's a little creepy, but
Yeah.
um
But I think of
yeah.
that like anything really, like some people like are more susceptible to, the effects of certain things. It's like, yeah, maybe some people resist the stuff a little bit, so they're able to try it, but they didn't get addicted to it as quickly. But some people get addicted to it immediately because
Yeah.
the like in like some of the whatever the voiceovers of news broadcasts that they were doing, we're talking about how thousands of people died. Like, it wasn't like a small
Yeah, right,
thing.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Throughout, there's a couple times where there's some news broadcasts that you hear, and one of them early on, back when Jason was still at home with his family, talking about how like entire families have just been disappearing mysteriously, and like by this point, by the time the word gets out on Paul Sorvino's radio stations, by then like there's now thousands of people who have succumbed to this stuff, which probably is why people were so angry and burning it in the streets like they were.
Right.
But yeah, that was like, yeah, I'm surprised they didn't make a sequel to it, but I'm also not, because it was not successful financially.
Which is crazy. It's a good movie.
It is a good movie. It's, yeah, I mean,
Well, speaking of good movies,
do you want to get into our judgment categories?
judgment categories.
Judgment
Yeah.
category. So I guess since this is our first time doing this, we can introduce this concept. We are going to take, what is it, five categories: story, acting, effects, writing, and then cult factor, which is kind of just a stand-in for like, just, are we having a good time? Like, is this fun? Is this like, it's kind of that X factor. Um,
Yeah.
and we'll
Je ne sais quoi.
yeah, that little something, this the spirit that moves you. And we'll assign a letter grade to each of these categories between the two of us. And yeah, and then that's how that'll be now down in history.
Okay, so we have to like agree on it, like that. So there'll be a little back and forth. Is that kind of how we plan? Because I figured we're probably gonna be pretty close on most of this stuff, but so we're giving one grade for both of us, right? We're not doing each of us gets a grade,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have to agree. We have to
We
agree.
have
Okay,
to,
cool.
yeah, we have to hash this
Okay.
out right here,
All
right
right.
now. This is what
Okay.
this is the content that people crave, sir. So
That's
story.
what plants crave.
That's what it's Veranda. Yeah. So okay, story part one.
I'm gonna go B.
You're gonna say B.
Yeah, I'm gonna say B. What do you think?
You know what? I gotta try. It's really hard to separate my feelings from like an objective analysis here, because here's the thing: like, this story, like, it made some leaps. There's so many things that like they plant and then pay off later. Like, so many ways that things connect.
For sure.
I really thought that as far as anything goes, the story, I was gonna give it an A, but I'll give it a B. I'll accept it.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll lean the A. So like I don't give a lot of A's. So like my rubric is always like A's got to be like perfect. But I'll tell you what. I'll give it to you because some of the some of the things that you see in the beginning of the movie don't make sense until after you watch the movie, and I love that. So I'll go A. I'll bump it up.
Yes.
Yes.
All
Hold on, I can
right.
eat some of this stuff. Hold on.
Okay, grab some. Yeah, give me some. I checked my fridge. I don't have enough. 'Cause
Hey,
enough
if they
is
made
never
like
enough.
a marshmallow dessert of this, would you eat it? Like branded like that?
I gotta tell you, man, I don't like mushrooms. I don't like mushrooms really, but I don't like marshmallows. So I
But
probably
like
wouldn't
if it
eat
was
it.
like even ice cream or something, like some sort of dessert that would
I
you
mean,
try it?
if they created branded food based off of the film The Stuff from
Yeah.
1985, would I eat it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I don't even care what it tastes like. It tastes like dirt.
Jesus Christ.
I'd have
Fuck, I
to.
would that shit wouldn't come anywhere near my mouth.
Come on, man.
Have you seen what happens?
Yeah, but well, are you talking about real stuff?
Chocolate chip Charlie, man.
I know, like RIP to a real one. But here's the
But
thing.
how do you know it's not real?
Well, okay, you didn't tell me that
I'm
it
saying
was like
you're a brave dude.
you told me if they created like a dessert. You didn't tell me if they found some in a quarry and then served it as a dessert.
But how do you know that's not what they're just feeding you? You don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess you have a point because I'd probably want to save it as a collector's item, so I just have it in my fridge forever.
So it just opens up and waves at you every once in a
Yeah,
while.
it's like, hey, what's up, man? It's like, hey, chill out the stuff.
Hey, that
Like,
pizza you left in here for like 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, man. I kind of like really housed that. It's like no worries stuff.
it's like, man, stuff. You're always eating my leftovers, and you don't pay rent.
Uh,
Worst roommate.
oh yeah. Well, okay. So we'll leave that there.
There it is.
Acting.
Acting. Here, you know, I don't know. All the performances were really solid throughout. You know, obviously with standouts like Michael Moriarty killing the game as Mo Rutherford, but there were some like more tropey moments where it's just like I don't know, where it was just like the performance didn't really measure up for some of the other actors. I didn't think Nicole's character like was the strongest performer in it. What do you think?
So I'd probably go C here. And the only reason is because I feel like there's such a parity between the people. Like as a whole, it was okay. It was average, right? There are, like you said, there are parts that like really stood out to me, and then there are parts that really were like kind of didn't hit or like were kind of weird. And again, Nicole probably was the one for me that kind of like if her performance was a little better, I'd probably go B. But like, you know, I don't think C's a bad grade for this, especially because for what this is. Like, so we're like we're trying to set a baseline here too, which is always tough because it's the first one. So like, how do you grade it against other stuff, especially when we've only covered this one? But
And we're
you know,
watching one of the best movies ever made, so it's like really tough
yeah.
to judge.
So
Yeah,
like, I feel
fairly.
like for me, like you know, I could be argued into a B, but like my gut reaction would be a C, and it's not to take away from the acting that was there. I just feel like, and I don't know if maybe it gets into a later category. There's the reason why it wasn't good, but or not good, but it wasn't like stellar. But for me, Nicole like really brought it down a little bit because like I just didn't believe anything she was like doing.
Well, another thing too is like acting is not the same as the charisma of the performers. Like if I was just going
Yeah,
off of
true.
like
You're right.
the
You're true.
strength
Yeah,
of
no.
like Michael
Yeah.
Moriarty or the strength of like Paul Sorvino,
Yeah.
like they're incredible. Like they're just in the moment. Like they're such a presence. But it's like, is that the performance or just like the strength of their charisma? So yeah, I would say, even though I am probably gonna be way kinder on everything than you are, I'll go C with this because
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily acting that all the time that got to me. It was more like just their presence. So I'll give it to you. I'll give you the C.
Okay, thank you.
Uh,
I'll take my win and go.
yeah, okay. See you. But no, okay. Next, effects.
I loved them. I think this is where this really did well because like they could have done that shitty like late mid to late 80s CGI crap and they didn't. And I to me that's an A. Like the fact that they made a goop that worked, right? Because like when you watch the goop or the stuff, like you believe that it's the stuff, right? It's not like you know the old Blob movie, which was awesome, but like you know like you it was like okay, we get it. But like this, like I'm like okay, like you know it was some kind of like Newtonian fluid or something, right? It looked cool, like it had a cool effect to it. Like I thought the cool tricks they did, like with the room that you brought up, like the pillow stuff was cool. I really liked even like the first scene where it's in the refrigerator, it moves real fast. I think they did a really good job. And like, yeah, you could talk about the prosthetics and but if you look at it in the like at the time it was made, like that was pretty good stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like now obviously we've got computer AI that can do stuff that would blow your mind, but I think for the time frame, like I'd give this an A. I loved it.
Yeah, one trend you'll notice for me is that I am a sucker for practical effects all day, every day. So that's why, like for me, like this era is kind of like the golden age of like horror and creature features and all that, because yeah, like maybe it can look a little silly because they had to do certain things to like make the space work or to make things happen, but like at the end of the day, those people are in a room with goo and it is moving on to them and stuff, or moving around them, or whatever the scene calls for. Like it's there, and it really gives a sense of like of being that you like. I feel like especially like the uncanny valley approach with certain like CGI things nowadays. Like you can see the laziest stuff in multi-million-dollar movies, and yet you look at something like this, and it looks like they're in there with the stuff. So I'm with you. I'm A all the way.
Love it. All right, writing. What do you think? This is more your wheelhouse.
I think that there's two ways that I would go with the writing. The one is, you know, the general plot and narrative aspect, which I think I already kind of gave it to that in story. As far as like the writing specifically in terms of like dialogue and everything, it's kind of tough because some of the things like that Mo says, like I have zero idea why the things he says are working out for him, because these lines are crazy. Like,
so is that directing or is that writing though?
I would say that that's writing, because like the way he says it is directing, but what he's saying is wild to me. And and so like some of the lines, but then again, there's some lines where it's like, man, they're really enjoying it. I think Paul Sorvino has a handful of like silly lines until he gets like nefariously racist. Like up until then, like some of his lines are really funny and cool to say and stuff like that. But then there's things like where like the writing, like the whole marketing campaign of like enough is never enough for the stuff, and then like I don't know if you heard during the song that was playing, it'd be like one lick is never enough of the stuff. That was like the lyrics of the song. And I'm like, I don't know how this like this is like somebody who writes things for a living's idea of what a successful ad campaign would be. This is not actually good advertising. Like it sticks in your head, but that's about it. So if I were to rate the writing, like because of the strength of like the plotting and the narrative, I kind of handed a story. I think I'd give the dialogue maybe like a B or C even.
I mean, I could see B because like I mean, you have to like in my mind, you have to think about what they're writing about, right? And for what the topic was, I think it was pretty cool. But I trust you, so if you think it was a C, I'll go C.
No, if you're gonna give me a B, I'm taking the B.
All right, we'll take the B.
Take that straight to the bank.
All right.
Put it in a lockbox with some stuff.
I think this is pretty easy. To me, this is the easiest grade out of all of them.
What, cult factor?
Yeah.
All right. What are you thinking then, my man?
I think it's an A. This is such a cool, you know, there are things that are kind of like this, but there's nothing that is like this, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's definitely not enough of the stuff out there.
And through research for this, the really cool, like the shirts you can get, like there's all kinds of cool merchandise. Like I think this definitely is a cult movie. But...
Yes, agreed, 100%. A on cult factor. This is just, you know, it's not long. It's what, like 88 minutes. It's not a long movie. Like it moves at a good pace. It's fun. Like it's just, this is the sort of like, you know, like if you're looking for a definitive like cult classic movie, like I would say cult factor on this one is up there. There's a reason that I have revisited it basically every year since I first watched it in 2012. But granted, I'm a maniac. But still, I think that there's a lot here to this movie to make it stick. Like it does what it does well.
Yeah, so I just took the quick like average right across what we did, and like we're averaging it like a mid to high B. So like I think that's a fair grade for this, like a B plus.
I agree. I would probably be a little bit more generous, but I think that as we do more of these movies, you're gonna come to understand that there's just a soft spot in my heart. Like you have to help me see things a little bit
well
more.
Like so if we would have bumped the acting up, it would have probably hit like an A, like a high, really high, almost A, like we could like tip the scale. But like I just think that one little piece just takes it back and it's just, I think it's Nicole. It like takes it back just a teeny bit. But I mean, look, I've seen a lot of, I haven't seen as many as you have, but I've seen a lot of I don't like these types of movies, and this is probably one of the best ones I've ever seen.
I think that one of the things about these movies that almost never holds up is the acting. Like, I think that one of the things that you'll always see as a problem is going to be the acting. And it's the same thing that I said, like, don't mistake the charisma of your performers for being a performance. And I think that that's a lot of these movies. Like, I think we'll see that as we continue moving through different films like this. You're going to see that. The strength is in most of the other things about it, and then in just accepting it for its own, like, it's operating on its own set of standards. So I don't think it's unfair that we rated it the way we did.
So like, maybe like in a year we go back to it, maybe we could regrade this because it was our first one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we could do like an episode where we reevaluate our earlier ones as we see more and maybe curve it a little bit. Like, yeah, that's fair. We're allowed to change our minds. This isn't a monolithic thing. We can. It's
like we've ingested the stuff. Jeez.
Oh no. But I think that you're rolling into into the D roll, which is what we had mentioned earlier, which is the putting it into a category of either cult classic, which is, you know, pretty self-explanatory. Is it a B movie? Which, you know, it's not a cult classic. It's maybe not going to stand the test of time, but it's a solid movie all around. Is it Grindhouse? Grindhouse being the rather affectionate term for like splatter stuff, exploitation stuff. In this case, I would categorize it more of a guilty pleasure kind of thing. It's a movie that you'll find something that you'll like out of it. And then finally, Trash, which is just not a lot of redeeming qualities. And an example of that would probably be I Spit on Your Grave, which is gross.
Yeah, and like all versions of that.
Yeah,
and like,
why did they remake that movie?
I don't know. Three times, and it gets worse.
The first time.
So like, I had my first job, like real job. I worked a night shift, and we didn't really have a lot going on. So like, one of the guys I worked with, he would borrow movies from the internet, and we would watch them. And another guy that worked with us said, "Oh, you guys should watch I Spit on Your Grave." So we're at work, and I've never seen this movie, and I've never seen the original one because I really don't like this type of topic. It doesn't really sing to me. Like, it's not like I'm not like looking for these types of movies. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just save yourself some time and don't look it up.
Yeah,
but
not cool.
So I just met this guy. We'd been working together for like 3 days, and he's like, "Yo, you want to watch this movie? Like, this other guy said it's pretty good." So we're literally sitting there in horror as this movie unfolds, right? So like, I'm not a fan, just this is me personally, right? Just to help you understand where I'm coming from with a lot of stuff. Like, I liked Game of Thrones. They overdid it with the nudity and the sex scenes, like, completely. Like, we're all adults, or like, okay, no, we're not all adults, but like, look, innuendos are there for a reason. They work, right? Have them walk into a room and shut the door. We know what happens, right? We get it. So like, to have stuff taken to the next level with something like I Spit on Your Grave, you know, because then after that, the movie gets a little different and it's like palatable. But up until then, it was almost like I was like, I'm like, why am I literally am with a stranger. Why am I watching this? So that's kind of how I felt. So sorry to get off my soapbox.
Oh no, yeah, I mean, that's the genre. Like, I don't really want to say the name of the genre even because it's
gross, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's the genre. It's like this event happens and then that precipitates this event, and it's like,
yeah,
there are some ladder analyses of that kind of thing. That's like, oh, this is there's like a feminist message to be said here. It's like, I think there's other things that do better messages.
But like, they could have said it not as without the visceral imagery.
No, that's true. Yeah, there's ways to do it. That was. Yeah. Anyway, this one's for the audience. If somebody recommends I Spit on Your Grave, that is a red flag. Run, don't walk somewhere else. but back to the D roll. Now that we've gone on our I Spit on Your Grave. I mean, that does represent what trash is, though, truly. So that's the bottom category. And I'm going to tell you right now, I do not think the stuff is trash, so we don't have to talk about trash anymore.
All right, so what's your D-roll rating?
I'm going to say cult classic. I think this thing's got it going on.
Man, I'm kidding, cult classic all the way. Like,
hell yeah. We did it.
It's such a good movie. Yeah,
It really holds up in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah, in like even like so like I love Idiocracy. And like in the like the so like some of the dialogue doesn't hold up in Idiocracy. Like it's pretty rough if you rewatch it, but same with this, right? Like the messaging is there, and it's pretty interesting how the mid 80s was so accurate on like kind of like what's happening like around now, right? They were pretty spot on with some of the consumerism stuff that we're dealing with right now with advertising and the internet. So I loved it. I'd watch this every year. I think it's a great movie.
Yeah, add it to your, if you do like a October like Halloween time like horror movies thing, add it to the list, my man.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's great. I'm glad we're in agreement on that, because I was worried I was gonna have to battle for it.
No way. I like, and there's some movies like when you start watching, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a slog, right? This was not one of them. Even from the get go, like even the cheesy like, oh, sweaty palms, sweaty palms, sweaty palms. I'm like this. I'm like, yes.
As soon as Michael Moriarty struts onto that yacht, and you're like, all right, let's see where this is going.
Yeah. Because like at first, like the Hicks like eating the goo, I'm like, fuck, this is gonna be a long day. And then it gets better, but yeah, I mean that was a good scene too. But you get what I mean.
Yeah, but that's one of those ones that, like what you said earlier, like the later things we learn about the stuff and how it seems to like prompt people to do things.
Yeah.
Like
so cool.
Okay, it makes more sense why this Hick would just eat some white goo he pulled out of the ground. Yeah. All right, well that's it. It's official. The Stuff is a cult classic on the D-roll.
Cult classic.
All day.
So, anything else to say about The Stuff before we wrap up that portion of everything?
No, I think we mentioned that it can be seen on Tubi for sure. So, and just a little something for the audience is we're gonna pick a lot of Tubi movies because that's 100% free ad-supported service. So, no need to subscribe to something.
Yeah, and the whole point of this, and I guess we probably should have started with this, is watch this before the episode. I don't know if I'll put it in the description. I don't think people actually read those, but on the next one, definitely watch the movie before you before you listen to the podcast, because we're gonna go into depth on this stuff. I don't know if each movie will get is in the weeds, because we definitely love this one. I think that's why we put so much time into this, because it's a banger from start to finish. But definitely check them out before you listen to the episode. That way you're kind of on par with what we're talking about. That way you're not thinking like, oh, I watched this movie 10 years ago. And maybe you have a great memory, good for you. But I would just give it a quick refresher. And the Tubi's a great way to do that, because it's free.
Yeah, and I would hate to spoil something like this for somebody, because it is an adventure. Like there's probably gonna be some movies we'll do that'll be kind of, and those will be the ones that aren't as rich with incident, and it won't take us as long to get through the plot. So
for sure, yeah, and then obviously too, like we had to explain some of the stuff we're doing, But I think that's a pretty good segue though into what we're gonna be getting into next week. Do you wanna give the shout out to what we're gonna be watching next week, or our next episode? Not next week. Well, I guess we'll watch it next week.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. The next episode, we are going to be covering Chud, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dweller. Also, that's why when you look up Chud, it is an acronym. So it's C.H.U.D. It is an acronym.
I've got some good stories about the word Chud. That's like one of my favorite insults ever. So,
dude, I got to tell you, the legacy of Chud extends beyond the film. It is entered like the parlance of our society. So now we get to see firsthand why.
I can't wait. Get that Chud action going.
And that is on Tubi. I think it might also be on Amazon Prime, but again, Tubi's free, so that's an easy place to watch it.
Cool. Well, I think that about does it for our first episode. I really appreciate everyone taking time to kind of hang out with us and indulge us in our adventure. And I guess more of my education on this genre, because I do love these movies. I've never seen the Stuff, which is criminal. If you haven't seen this movie, I don't know what you're doing. This is oh my God, it's so good. But so I'm Shane.
Hey, I'm Stefan.
And you have been participating in the Darkside Drive-In. And we're out.
That's it. Bye.
Bye.